2 megabits per second broadband speed and setup.
This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Ask Boris. Mayor of London Boris Johnson takes your calls with Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. This is Ask Boris on LBC.
Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year, folks. This is Boris Johnson bringing you your first Ask Boris of 2015. And if this is the first time that you're joining us, all you need to know is that I'm here with my trusty helpmeet, Mr. Nick Ferrari, for the next 45 minutes to take your questions, hear your ideas, to take forward our great city of London. And if you want to get involved, call 0345 6060 973 or email boris@lbc.co.uk. You can watch it live, apparently, on the website. But let's go, I don't know where the cameras are. Let's go first to Jason in Rains Park. The cameras are everywhere. My God, it's there.
I know, right there.
Let's go first to Jason in Rains Park. Jason.
Morning, boys. Hello, Nick.
Morning, sir.
Hello, Jason.
Boris, I was just wondering on what Nigel Farage said about
Yes.
the NHS employing English-speaking people at the front line. Now, having said that, it's 11%, they say, that the NHS is employing that isn't got the first language as English. Why is it whenever I use the NHS, I bump into that 11% using the phone or when I'm in a hospital or whatever?
Well, Jason, I think, let's be very clear, I think everybody in London, everybody who comes to work in our economy should be able to speak English, and I think that it was a great shame, by the way, that under the last Labour government, they cut a lot of the funding for English teaching English for speakers of other languages, or ESOL, as it's called, and we whacked some dosh back in from City Hall because I think it's an absolute priority. You go into Tower Hamlets, places like that. You can find people who've been there for several generations who still don't speak English. And one of the reasons, Jason, is that the media is so massive now, but so disparate, so diffuse, so diverse, that people can be tuned in to their own communities and not feel the need to learn the common language of this city and this country. And I think that is a great shame. It's a huge wasted opportunity for them. And I think everybody in this country, particularly people who are working in our public services, should speak English.
So therefore, will you grab the nettle and sort it out?
Unfortunately, I do not run the NHS. Well,
thank God for that.
No, well, I think it would be a lot of sense, actually, if London did have some strategic say on the running of healthcare in London, because it is not optimal to say the least. However, I'm not.
What is it you want him to do? The mayor to do then?
I'm not able to.
In a perfect world.
It's just somebody that reads the news and sees what's going on. I mean, I see Boris wants to build an island. He wants to build so many houses. We're going to build a bridge.
Yeah.
So there's all this money sloshing around in London, and it seems to, just as me speaking, that something could be done so that when the likes of me or my father or my grandparents go to a hospital, they can be understood.
Listen, Jason, I agree passionately with you. And I think I'm amazed by reports that people cannot make themselves understood in English in this country to people working in the NHS. That is completely wrong. I'm sure that NHS managers will be taking steps to sort it out. I think that we should have a culture in this country that if you come here, you do as the Romans do. You learn English and you speak English. I don't mean this, by the way, in a sort of punitive sense. I'm not saying that everybody should be, punished if they fail. This is a wasted opportunity for these families. They are not able to participate in.
And how do you encourage
the
them
London
to do
economy.
it? Do we have interpreters or do we withdraw?
No, I think we went through a long period in Britain of having kind of multi-culti balkanisation of our society, and we thought it was a very good idea to teach kids in their own language in primary school classes. I think that's a disastrous approach. They should be learning in English.
So do we withdraw interpreters?
Well, we certainly, as far as the mayoralty is concerned, we've dropped a lot of this kind of, we'll offer to translate your document into umpteen languages, and I think it's complete nonsense. This is a country where English has been spoken for many, getting on for 1,000 years, and
so when my local authority in Lewisham gives me a leaflet telling me about recycling programs and it's in Polish, and I can ring a phone number and I can get it in every language known to man, that should all be stopped.
I just think we should have I want to stress, I don't want to be hostile towards speakers of other languages. Other languages are beautiful things, and people should learn other languages, and they're wonderful. But this is a country that happens to speak English, and the way to participate in the London economy and to make a success of your life, and my message to everybody whose English is a bit rusty, if you can understand what I'm saying, go out, find a course for English for speakers of other languages. Yes. We fund them. They are available from your council. And learn English.
And lastly on this, the point Nigel Farage was making is, of course, the other side of the coin, Mr. Mayor, in that many staff in the NHS have trouble with the English languages, and he's almost proposed some form of testing to ensure that our clinicians, the nurses, the doctors, they can all have language to a certain level. Where would you stand on that?
I certainly think that it's completely right that part of the citizenship test that we have now in Britain is that you should have a pretty good mastery of English. And I notice that when the people come to do the citizenship ceremony at City Hall, and we get people from all over the world who've spent a lot of time in Britain and have been worked very hard, and they've become British, their English is actually pretty good. Now, I think everybody should be trying to get up to that standard. It is not a difficult language. The great thing about English is that it has so many very short, very simple words. Our grammar is unbelievably simple. We have about twice as many words as French or German. You cannot
counted them?
Yeah, 500,000. There are about 186,000 in French, 190,000 in German. Chinese only has about 90,000. English is unbelievably easy to get the hang of. Yes. And look at the way I can string these sentences together.
Yes.
With barely a verb. People should be able to learn it.
Let's move to other matters.
Can we go to Liana in Hackney?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good morning. Hi, morning, Boris, and morning, Nick.
Hello, Liana. You're on the radio. Go ahead.
My question is just with regard to affordable housing.
Yes.
I live in Hackney at the moment.
Yes.
And we are basically being asked to pay up to £1,700 monthly for rent. I just want to know what Boris Johnson is going to do about this.
What sort of accommodation have you got, Liana?
I'm living with mum and dad at the moment. I'm 27, married, and living with my mum and dad.
And the whole rental is £1,700 a week for how many bedrooms?
£1,700
£1,700 a month for how many bedrooms?
2 bedrooms, which you proved. I'm sure you're very happy with this price.
Sorry, it's a two bedroom.
3 bedrooms, Mr. Mayor.
Three bedroom home in.
No, I cannot afford to move out of my mum's house because of that is the minimum price within my borough of Hackney.
The minimum in Hackney is £1,700.
It's one of the minimum prices. We're looking between at least £1,300 to £1,700, and that's just for
17. So it's £1,700 a month for a 3-bed in
Hackney.
In Hackney. So that's £500 or £600 a week for 3 beds. That a
month. I think you mean.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 300 or 400 a month for a week for a 3-bedroom house. I mean, that is obviously high, but what is this? Is this affordable? What sort of accommodation are you living in, Liana? What sort of
living at home?
I live at my mum and dad's house, and then in a bedroom at my mum and dad's house. My old bedroom at my mum and dad.
And you're saying that the rent they're paying rent there of £1,700 a month.
No, she wants to move out.
I'm not paying rent in their house. My mum and dad. I live at my mum and dad's house because I cannot afford to move out.
And are you saying you're married?
I'm sorry. Okay,
she wants to get. Have you just got married? Is that the key here?
Well, okay, Liana. Let me give you a solution.
Let's get a solution.
Let me give you a solution. I mean, I'm sorry. I thought. Forgive me for the confusion. I thought you were describing your current circumstances. What you need to do is get onto our websites, look at some of the things that are going at the moment in London. And I was down just yesterday in Erith, where we have, which Mr. Ferrari knows well, where we're building with support of the GLA, they are building they're reconstituting an estate, and you can get a 3-bedroom home in Erith for 247, with half an hour from London Bridge, for £247,000 for 3 bedrooms and a garden, and you can get onto the property ladder by buying that home with a £12,000 deposit, and then pay a very moderate rent until such time as you're able to own the property. And what we're trying to do is build many more affordable homes for all sorts of people, Leon. So it's people who can't afford, not just for people who are so stuck that they need to get local housing allowance, housing benefit, but also for people who don't qualify for those benefits, but who simply can't afford the price of renting in London. And the way to address it is to build many more homes of all types. And
let's see if that appeals. Liana, would you fancy living in Erith?
No, honestly, I was born and raised in Hackney. I would like to have stayed in Hackney. I don't want to have to commute an hour just to get to work. Both fully
it's
working.
It's not an hour. It's half an hour. It's half an hour. And you know, I don't hesitate to say this, but there are fantastic homes around London. And the essence of what we're trying to do, Liana, by putting in a good transport network, is to enable people to access some of the places they perhaps wouldn't have thought of living in, and you know, that part of South East London is going to have Crossrail coming in to Abbey Wood. We're going to build bridges across the river. You are going to see real changes to the transport.
Are you sold on Erith, Liana?
In this area, and you should go. To. Sorry, Nick. Before
I know
you
Erith.
should go.
Point me aggressively. I know Erith before you ever.
I'm pointing at you passionately and with like evangelically. Go down and have a look at this. Don't have a look at this estate. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And
I don't think Liana's sold, Liana, are you?
Well, I've done my best. I mean, go on, sorry, Liana.
Boris is telling his children to just move away from where they were born and raised, because he can't bring the prices down, so that they can afford to live in.
Okay, Liana, you're
sending
correct.
Your children to the marshes.
You're correct. You're correct. You're correct. You know, it's absolutely correct that my children couldn't live where I grew up. There's no question about that. There's no way they could afford to do that. Nor indeed can I.
You struggle to pay the rent as it is.
So you know, the great thing to do is to look at the Waltham Forest is the area of London where you've seen the fastest growth in house prices in the last couple of years. So people have spotted that area has which was not fashionable before. People thought, oh, why am I going to live there? But they've looked and they said, amazing transport links, fantastic housing being built. Let's go there. So all I'm saying is Leon, I appreciate. You know, you're correct in what you say. I cannot magically bring prices down. And nor, by the way, would many millions of Londoners necessarily want to see a catastrophic fall in the value of their home. So, you know, this is a very, very difficult problem to solve, but we are solving it by building hundreds of thousands more affordable homes on brownfield sites.
Liana, good luck. Stay in touch. And obviously that deposit is quite a lump to find, but I do hope you get a resolution of sorts. Mr. Mayor, where do we go now?
We're going now to Derek in the city. Derek?
Hi, Boris. Good morning. Good morning, Nick.
Hello, sir.
Boris, I wonder if you can help me with something. I work in the city and I commute in from Orpington, where your brother is the MP.
Yes, right.
Now, last year my company went through some financial difficulties and I was put on a 3-day week. The only reason I could afford to get to work is because I was able to negotiate coming in after the peak travel times.
Right.
Because I could buy a cheaper ticket. This week I go down there and find that ticket has risen in cost 35% to £12.
Right.
And I'm only earning £20,000 a year.
Well, Derek, I'm sorry to hear that.
This is overground.
You're on.
It is. Yes.
Some of this is overground. Sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking about.
I'm thinking this would be Is it Southeastern Rail?
Yeah. Well, Derek, I mean, the obvious thing that we need to do there is, and I say this, and actually it was a very good piece in the paper yesterday advocating exactly this, and I've been made the point to come. We need TfL Londoners to have more say over a South East Rail,
but South East are blaming Transport for London for pushing the fares up.
Well, that's nonsense. You know, that's a decision that they have taken. And if you look at if you travel by our networks and you're doing a 3-day week, what we've done, as I think many listeners will know by now, is we've capped the daily cap brought the cap right down so that people travelling just 3 days a week, for instance, in zones 1 to 2, or even in your case, say zones 1 to 6. If you're travelling 3 days a week on our networks, you will save £553 a year. Because of the reduction we've had in the daily
you don't have any say, of course, on those rail fares.
I don't have any say over Network South East, but the point I'm making to Derek is that it'd be a great thing if we did.
Yeah.
And what we need to do now is to move forward with the way that we've done with the Greater Anglia Line, and to give London a say over the running of that franchise, and that would enable us to integrate the service, to hold down fares, and to give people, frankly, in Orpington and elsewhere, a better service into London.
The fares have gone up, of course, as you'll be aware. Suppose, Mr. Mayor, you had to make the journey from City Hall to, Uxbridge by underground now, and you'd forgotten your Oyster card. What would that cost you?
I think it would be. I think it's gone up 30p, and I think I would now be up for £6. Is my memory of the situation. But I don't have the.
So much for that idea.
Since I knew you were going to ask this.
So much for that idea.
Thank you very much. But Derek, I hope people will listen. I hope people will listen to what Derek said, because there is a real case for London having a greater say.
Yes.
And it would benefit not just Londoners, but everybody around London as well. I think obviously what people worry about is if they're living in Sevenoaks or places outside the immediate Greater London area, think, is this going to mean that that my peri-urban service, as it were, is going to be disadvantaged by London? That's not true. We can lay on more services and better services for everybody.
Just on the subject of Network Rail, which is very much what Derek's call was about, the manager at the helm over the Christmas and New Year period, and I have to confess I was out of the country for some of this, but I understand there was abject misery and hell for many commuters who initially were told to go to King's Cross and then told to go to Finsbury Park and then told to avoid Finsbury Park like the plague. Yet it would appear the managing director for the South East is still in line for a bonus, some £30,000 on top of his salary.
I think Patrick McLaughlin has addressed that, hasn't he?
Has he? What has he said?
As far as I can remember, Patrick has said that it wouldn't be acceptable for him to get his full bonus. And I think
Do you have confidence in this gentleman, David Ward?
Well, look, I think that there was obviously things weren't managed particularly brilliantly on that particular occasion, and I think Network Rail have put their hands up, and fair play to them. And I think that
So you have confidence?
And I think that we have very good relations with Network Rail.
Yes, so you have confidence in this man, do you?
I believe that he has, they've taken full responsibility for the cock-up that happened. I think he's been docked some of his a goodly whack of his pay or his bonus, and that seems to me to be appropriate. I think Patrick McLaughlin has done exactly the right thing.
All right, we have another caller there. If we go to the next.
Sorry, thank you. Can we go to Daniel in Finchley?
Yes. Good morning, gentlemen. Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year,
Daniel.
Boris, I want to talk to you about your quite frankly ridiculous idea to even contemplate banning cars coming into London on a Sunday, which you were talking about when you were visited. Are you aware what happens on a Sunday in London if there's a demonstration or a road closure or an event or sports event? I can tell you, you probably haven't even really experienced it, because you're probably sitting in your country mansion, aren't you, Boris? Anyway.
No, but go on. If you want to continue this ad personam argument.
Your country mansion, Boris. Anyway.
Go on.
The traffic is an absolute. The traffic is an absolute gridlock, which is going to be exactly the same. What is going to be exactly the same way is if things go ahead on the other vanity scheme of yours, which is the East-West Superhighway, which is a totally misthought out.
Is that the cycle superhighway?
Okay.
Yes, we need to get into that.
Come on, this is a favourite. Okay, well, Daniel, before you...
Can we continue? Let me just...
Yes, go on.
I've got to move you to a question, though, Daniel, because it's quite all-encompassing at the moment.
Well, the point is there are, instead of making the traffic worse, why don't you follow the lead of the Mayor of Liverpool, who's actually banned bus lanes, which has had no adverse effect on the traffic?
All right, stay where you are.
Daniel, thank you for this. I think the suggestion there is we should ban bus lanes, and I know that would be very popular with some ministers. I think the difficulty there is we just got to, we got more and more people travelling by bus, about 2 billion journeys a year now. It would be, I think, disastrous for the economy of London if people were endlessly stuck in.
Where are we with the
in
cycle
queues,
superhighway? This
queues on
public
buses.
consultation's ended
But
now.
Daniel, Daniel's first worry was about the possibility of
Yes.
car-free Sundays.
You still married to that idea?
All I said was we'd look at it, and we are looking at it. And
What does that mean, this looking at things?
Well, we'll look, for instance, at the traffic impacts that.
It's going to be hideous.
Well, so you say, but we may be able to mitigate. We may find cunning ways of making it all work.
So how long does this looking at take?
Until such time as I'm satisfied we've got the right answer. And on which point, the cycle superhighway. On which point, the cycle superhighway. How many times have I sat here and you and I have had conversations about what are we doing as a city to make it safer for cyclists? What are we doing? And you have quite rightly, Nick, you have been at the front of and the most vocal of the people who have said that it's time for TfL and City Hall to invest in the road network, time for us to do things that will really make London different and better for cyclists. And I agree with you. It's not easy to do these things.
What are you doing on this cycle superhighway, which is opposed by businessmen, businesswomen, Canary Wharf, all sorts of people?
I hope very much that when they see the latest... we've done a consultation, as you know, which I'm sure that Daniel and others will have been able to get their views across. There was 80% support, by the way, for that model. Even so, we are obviously working to make sure that we get a great solution, and we'll be announcing the results. We'll be announcing the results very shortly. If you can contain within the month. How about that?
So
within
by the end of this month.
By the end of this month.
And what is it? A definite yes or a no, or is another a modification, and it all has to be put forward for another look at? I mean,
wait and see. It will all be perfectly splendid, and I urge you to contain your impatience. But it's got to be done. It's got to be done. Great cities.
It's going to be done.
Great cities.
I think I can take from what you just said. It's going to be done.
Great cities occasionally have to do things that are initially controversial in order to make life in that city better for everybody. And
it's going to be done, just with modifications. Clearly,
I want a London where cycling is safer, where fatalities come down.
What about
where
pedestrians who want to get across the cycle lane? How are they going to do that?
I want a London, by the way, where pedestrians.
Well, how are you going to do that if you've got a cycle lane where they're all hammering along at 35 miles an hour?
It would be premature of me to.
You're going to put in lights. How are the people going to get across?
Well, as I say, we will be announcing the details of the scheme. I'm not.
It's a go.
I'm not able to
what are Canary Wharf saying? They must be furious.
Well, no. We'll wait and see. Contain your natural and justified impatience.
Denis Chesnikoff, in your book The Churchill Factor, you wrote the Wehrmacht captured Stalingrad and reached the outer stations of the Moscow metro. How can a man of your standing allow such gross historical errors in a book written about such a great historical figure? Would you care to explain?
Well, the Germans certainly did capture large chunks of Stalingrad.
That's not what you write. You write they captured Stalingrad. I think it's broadly accepted they didn't, did they?
Have you read? I haven't
read that part. I have read most of your book. It's fantastic.
Have you read?
Did the Germans capture Stalingrad?
There was a whole siege of Stalingrad. They were in the Kessel.
Though, did they?
Von Paulus. Listen, whoever this pedant is, he doesn't even read his history. Von Paulus was cooped up.
This pedant is Denis Chesnikov. No other than yes.
Well, anyway, he's following. I tell you, he's totally wrong. There was a
it went
Von
on
Paulus in the Sixth Army. My memory is, if you read Anthony Beevor's brilliant book, Von Paulus in the Sixth Army.
A lot of people have spent £25 on your brilliant book.
Well, exactly, because I
might have a copy of it.
Exactly, and I recommend everybody read it.
Get the Stalingrad bit. Go on, keep talking. I'm going to look up Stalingrad.
Yeah.
I understood that they fought for some 5 months and the Russians booted them out.
It's perfectly obvious that the Germans were in. It's a complete pedantry. The Germans were in Stalingrad.
It's not, is it?
They were
wrong,
in what is
Why don't you just accept
wrong.
You got it wrong?
No, because I'm right, and the chaps are pedant. It's the Sixth Army, as everybody knows, was told by Hitler to hang on in there, and that's by the way, this is totally
5 months, and the Russians booted them out, and you say that the Wehrmacht took Stalingrad.
Well, have you seen?
Captured.
Read the book. Okay. You're saying there were no Germans in Stalingrad?
That's not what you write. No, that's ridiculous.
Well, that's right. Of course there were. Come on.
Poland's captured London. It's not quite the same, is it? We have other emails coming.
How about they were there? They were there. They had
these
huge
doing words. You use these doing words like captured. They get you in trouble.
They captured.
These tabloid words you use. Right, more emails.
Go on.
Rachel in Bexley says, talking about the NHS, does Boris Johnson agree that a mansion tax should be introduced in England to pay for nurses in Scotland?
Well,
this is a story from Jim Murphy, the Scottish Labour leader, supporting Ed Miliband's idea of a mansion tax, which obviously has huge implications on people living in London, in your area, Mr. Mayor. He talks about a real win-win for Scotland, with England picking up the bill for the nurses.
Well, look, I think that the Labour Party embarked years ago on a quite catastrophic programme of trying to appease the Scottish nationalists by giving them ever more concessions. They created the monster of Scottish nationalism, which almost led to the breakup of our country last year. And what's happened now is that Labour has made a cynical calculation that they are more vulnerable in Scotland to the SNP than they are, say, in the southeast, or than they are in London, and they've decided to punish the southeast, or to be vindictive, fiscally vindictive towards the southeast of England, in order to try to bribe the Scots to vote Labour. And I think that it's
a bribe by Ed Miliband.
It's no way to run a country. It's no way. This is no way to claim that you are the unifying force in this great country of ours. You should not be saying to one group of people, "We are going to. It's going to be perfectly fine. You vote for us in Scotland because we're going to milk. We're going to mulct. We're going to tax squeeze those Londoners till the pips squeak." You know, that is a way to set up resentments, and I don't think it's the right way forward. Londoners perfectly accept that we have a duty to the rest of the country. We already export huge quantities in taxation, about £19 billion a year, but I don't think it's right that that the Labour Party should be saying one thing to the Scots and standing on a completely different thing in London. And if you look at what the Labour candidates for the mayoralty are saying, I think they'll be pretty horrified by this. They're all, with the exception of, I think they're all basically opposed to the mansion tax, which falls overwhelmingly on London. And I think it's very regrettable that Labour should use divisive tactics and should be setting up one part of the country against another. And it won't pay off for them, by the way. It won't pay off.
Coming up, more from Ask Boris, not least, how will the city address the fact that as of today, the population could soar to the level not seen since before World War II, of which, of course, Stalingrad was a part. You're listening to Ask Boris here on LBC.
The best book on that subject is The Churchill Factor.
LBC News, Lisa Aziz.
Mayor Boris Johnson's told LBC everyone who lives and works in London should be able to speak English. He says it's a wasted opportunity if people from other countries don't learn the common language.
I'm amazed by reports that people cannot make themselves understood in English in this country to people working in the NHS. That is completely wrong. I think that we should have a culture in this country that if you come here, you do as the Romans do. You learn English and you speak English.
The Health Secretary has admitted there is currently a huge amount of pressure on the NHS in England. It's as latest A&E waiting time figures are about to be released. Many hospitals have struggled this winter, with some failing to meet the target of dealing with patients within 4 hours. Prince Andrew's ex-wife has defended him following allegations he had sex with an underage teenager in America. The Duchess of York's described him as the best man in the world. Buckingham Palace has denied the claims against the Prince. At 9:15, the FTSE was down 50 at 63.66, and LBC weather, mostly cloudy with outbreaks of rain for London and the southeast today. Clearing later, though, to leave a dry, clear evening. Highs of 11 degrees, starting cloudy and wet across England, Wales and Scotland. Heavy rain moving slowly southeastwards across the UK, leaving clearer, colder conditions with a mix of sunshine and showers. Drier and brighter for Northern Ireland. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
This is Ask Boris on LBC.
Yes, it is Ask Boris, and just before the next caller, a quick question from me. You would have seen, Mr. Mayor, the population of London could now soar to levels not seen since the late 30s, since before World War II.
1939, that's right. Well,
8.615 million.
We think that the papers have jumped the gun. City Hall demographers were expecting the crucial baby to be born sometime in February. And so the wise men have come a bit early, we think, to this particular nativity. But anyway,
can the city cope?
Yeah. Let me explain.
Where's everyone going to go to the toilet?
Londoners. Yeah, I'll come to that in a minute. Londoners should realise that this city, although its population is growing fast, is currently, because as I say, I think we're jumping the gun. It's currently still smaller than it was in 1939 before the Blitz, and probably still smaller than it was in 1911. Absolutely, and when there was the huge dispersal to the suburbs, and they built the metro, they built the rails, and all the rest of it. So I think that people shouldn't get unduly alarmed, provided we build the infrastructure we need. And to get back to the point that callers were making already this morning, Liana in Hackney, particularly about housing. The crucial thing is to put in good, affordable housing, low-cost housing for Londoners, for London families who are in work, and to put the transport links that will enable people to get that. Because Leon, I tried to sell her the idea of Erith, and you could see how it wasn't flying. But that's because people think, oh my God, where is that? And what they don't realise is, actually, with our transport networks now, you really can get to places that are not too far, that look far away, but actually are perfectly accessible.
But don't we need this super sewer?
And so on your effluent point, to put it politely, there will be we do need.
So are we going ahead with this?
We need the Thames Tideway tunnel.
So it is happening.
To cope with. It is happening. I mean, I think you need to look very carefully at some of the places where they want to have the big outfalls and so on. There's a lot of controversy in a couple of places in London,
I'm sure,
about where the excavations are going to go on. Well, obviously, I'm now working very hard to in Barnes and so on. I'm working very hard to try and minimise the impacts on those communities. And but the fact is, we do need a gigantic new sewer.
Yes.
And Bazalgette in the 19th century was visionary, because he saw that London would grow, and when he everybody knows this.
Heard it pronounced like that before.
He decided to.
It's Bazalgette, but anyway, go on.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I say Bazalgette.
Okay. All right.
Perhaps incorrectly, but I'm delighted. Thank you.
Sure. Because his grandson is Sir Peter Bazalgette, of course.
Well, maybe he's shortened the A. I've legged. Okay, all right. Bazalgette.
Thank you.
Bazalgette. Okay.
Yeah,
Bazalgette. Yeah. A Huguenot name, by the way, showing that this city has long received immigrants.
But isn't this a success story, in fact, Mr. Mayor? Isn't this the other way of looking at it? Because in the 80s, the population, I understand, had fallen to around 6.5 million, which isn't that long ago.
Absolutely not.
And in fact, now
you're totally right.
You've added about a quarter, and still the city. I mean, there's the other way of looking at it, which is actually it's a good story, is it not? I don't know.
Well, people are very divided about it, and people are internally divided, because I think we're proud to be living in the most successful city in Europe. There's no question. It's the place everybody wants to be.
Yep.
It's got the fastest growing economy. It's the centre of finance, centre of arts, culture, and everything else. It's a fantastic place to live. But that growth is coming at a cost in terms of people's quality of life. The answer is to build more transport infrastructure. That's why things like Crossrail 2, my dear Nick, are so absolutely essential. Absolutely
all right,
essential.
We must move on. It is Ask
Can
Boris.
we go to Shaban in Newham?
Shaban, go ahead.
Hi there, good morning, Boris.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Nick.
Hello, sir.
The reason I'm bringing it up is recently we've lost our only car park that serves our high street.
Right. Is this in Newham?
Yeah, in Newham, in Canning Town, Wall Street.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is how come? I mean, I've been writing into like the likes of you yourself and Eric Pickles, and I've been trying to get on-street parking for the last couple of years now. I mean, if I know...
Do you run a business, Shaban?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And the problem is our council uncooperative in actually giving us on-street parking.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, without no parking facilities in our high street...
You'll die, I understand completely. Well, listen, can I just say, one of the things we've done in the new versions of the London Plan is tried to be more understanding about the need for parking in out London shopping centres and high streets, and to try to make sure that councils have the flexibility within our plan to allow more car parking spaces. I will take this up with Newham if you will allow me, Shaban, and see what I can do, and talk. We will raise the issue of the loss of the car parking spaces in Canning Town, because obviously if it's having an adverse effect on, the high street already has to compete with out of town shopping centres, with huge supermarkets, and it isn't fair if they are being unfairly they're being deprived of.
Shaban's
of
down the
space.
line. My team will pass the details
on. We'll get on. Ian, can we go to Ian in Muswell Hill,
Go
please?
ahead, Mr. Mayor. Yes. Ian, go on.
Ian?
Oh, hello. Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Happy New Year, sir.
You've thrown me right off key, because years ago I used to work with Peter Church.
Oh, yes.
Oh, well, there you go. And you
Great bloke.
It's a small world.
Yeah, smashing fellow. What's your question,
Well, he's
Ian?
now head of the Arts Council.
Yeah. Boris, I'm very concerned about cyclists in London, and
Yes.
I just do not want to see any more deaths or serious injuries on London streets anymore. Now, I'm not making a complaint, but just a suggestion.
Yes.
And that is, many years ago, I used to cycle on the charity bike rides, and I used to wear a vest which said Cycling Marshal.
Yes.
Which was a little bit authoritative, but in a gentler way. What I would like to suggest is maybe, and I've often done it, I've cycled through the city, through Elephant Castle and all those areas where people get injured or killed even.
So what is your question, Ian, if I may move you to that, sir? Do we need more marshals or wardens, do you think?
I think if we can coax more cyclists responsible, because I stop at red lights.
Yes.
I don't cause any problems, but it's just to advise.
Well, I think.
Yes, let's get. Thank you.
I think what Ian is saying will be echoed by many people listening to this show.
Let's have wardens then.
And I think wardens. I think would be. We are effectively doing that, because what we've got is a plan called Operation Safeway, which is run by the police, and intermittently, you know not the day nor the hour, the police will be there on the corner, and they will be flagging down cyclists who are breaking the law, mounting the pavements, jumping lights, intimidating pedestrians, and doing all the things that
and what happens
I don't want to do. They get fined.
Good.
They get fined. And we've issued, I think, I can't remember, 30, 40, 50 quid, maybe more. And we've issued 14,000, maybe 90 quid, I can't remember, a huge, a goodly whack. I've met a lot of irritated cyclists who, and
they shouldn't cycle on the pavement.
That's what I tell them.
Yeah.
And too bad.
Yeah.
And with the first operation, I think the police issued 14,000 tickets.
That's fantastic.
And what we saw, and I hope that Ian will appreciate it, because his point was about fatalities. We saw a real decline in injuries and fatalities as a result, and I'm sure it was associated with that operation to improve cyclist behaviour. Not just cycling behaviour, but of course improve the behaviour of motorists as well.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because you may recall when you came to see him in November, you spoke to Peter in Wandsworth about a proposal to fit your Barclays bikes with a cycle alert. This is a little of what he said.
I've written to the mayor as well, and the first proposal was, of course, is my offer to fit all London hire cycles for free.
I've got to tell you, Peter, I haven't personally seen this proposal yet. I will take it up with TfL and see where they are on it. If they think it's practicable and it can be put in quite cheaply, then let's have a look at it. Are you going to tell me we haven't done a thing?
That was the 11th of November, 2014.
I'm very sorry, right?
Today is the 6th of January, 2015, and last time we spoke last night, he's not heard a word. Why?
Well, I'm afraid, Nick, I can't give either you or Peter an answer to that, because I assume that something has got lost somewhere in the works. I will get onto it today. There will be an inquisition. We will find out.
It's 2 months.
It's
a lot of people on Barclays bikes who could have had those alerts. I mean, admittedly, you have to look at the cost, but not to even respond.
I will make sure that Peter gets a response before the day is out. The day is out. So what's the time now? It's getting on
9:42.
It's 9:42. He will have a response before tea time today.
What's tea time? 5?
Well, I don't know. I don't have tea at City Hall, come think of it. But well, let's say
close of play.
6 o'clock.
By close of play.
You'll have a response by 6 o'clock.
Close of play. All right. John asks, what's going to happen now that Nissan have decided to stop developing a London taxi?
Well, there are still loads of people.
I didn't know they had. Why have they
I'm not certain they have, by the way. But even if they have, there are still loads of people in the market. I'm not certain that information.
It's a text.
Correct.
Well, yes, he may be a cab driver.
There are loads of people in the market who are producing low emission taxis.
Right.
Nissan is one of them. As far as I know, Nissan is still very eager to be part of this, and they're producing electric vehicles.
And what's the Uber verdict, by the way, on the subject before we move on?
The trouble we've got there, all our dear friends in the black cab trade, and we're going to bat for them. We've got a real problem, which is that the LTDA, which is the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association, is trying to get this case before has tried to get this case before a magistrate's court, I believe. They tried to prosecute 2 Uber drivers, and what happened is, as I understand it, was that case was struck out. And what needs to happen now is that we somehow, TfL and the LTDA, need to work together to get this question to the High Court, get this question before a judge and get it resolved. The issue, as all listeners will be tired of hearing by now, I expect, is whether or not an Uber mobile phone device
is a meter.
Taxi meter is a meter.
Well, you've said that it is.
And I think it is, but I'm afraid we need a judge to rule on that, because otherwise we could be subject to legal challenge, because that wasn't the initial opinion of our council.
Right, so they got it wrong.
That's my view. But we need to get this before the courts as soon as possible. And I urge the LTA, I urge the taxi drivers to cooperate with us. At the moment, the whole thing is stuck.
Let's get another call in at least.
Can we get a Howard in Hackney?
Oh, good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Nick.
Hello, sir.
Happy New Year. First
Happy
of all,
New Year.
can I just correct Boris on a couple of points he just made?
Yeah.
First of all, Nissan has stopped producing the London taxi. They've made a public announcement saying that they couldn't meet the exceptionally high standards of air cleanliness that you were putting through. The vehicle to meet that level doesn't exist.
Uh-huh.
So they have actually pulled out of it until you've got a review, a consultation that's due to be published in the next few days with regards to the 10-year lifespan on London taxis.
Uh-huh.
The result of that before they continue. Second of all, when you say there are loads and loads of other companies in the pipeline, there are actually about 3 or 4, and none of them have actually produced the vehicle or anywhere near produced.
Where are these drivers meant to go, Mr. Mayor, if Nissan are pulling out and no one else has actually come up? Is this something we're going to have a look at?
No, we are going ahead with a plan for a ultra low emission zone and for much lower emission taxis. And
Mr. Mayor, the problem I'm concerned about is every single senior person in the London taxi trade has told you, or told your advisors, if you push ahead with a 10-year lifespan on London taxis,
yes,
you're going to decimate the London cab trade, put thousands and thousands of people out of work, and it also ties in nicely with the comments you were making just now about public transport. Because obviously with thousands of vehicles taken off of the road, the vehicle that you want us to drive around in doesn't exist yet. You want to put a 10-year lifespan, which will destroy fleet owners as well as London cab drivers. It's a crazy scheme, and you're not listening to the people in the industry.
Has this been thought through, Mr. Mayor?
Well, what we're doing...
I have to say, Howard seems to be making some pretty good points to me.
Well, because...
Well, he does.
Well, what we're doing is bringing in an ultra-low emission zone, and the idea is that all taxis would comply, and we obviously won't bring it in, Howard, if there aren't the vehicles for...
so it's going to be stopped now, is it?
No, we won't, because we are confident...
The vehicle doesn't exist yet. I mean, you've introduced, in 2018, you said that we're going to have to be driving around in zero-emissions vehicles. A zero-emissions vehicle doesn't exist yet. For a vehicle to be classed as a London...
That's not true. But by the way, how that simply isn't true. There already are such vehicles, and if you there's a vehicle made by a Hampshire firm, as I'm sure you know, called Fraser Nash, which is perfectly compliant. And our objective is to make sure that these vehicles are value for London taxi drivers, and that they
need a major manufacturer like Nissan,
what we need is the Office of Low Emission Vehicles, the OLEV funding, to be properly administered to London, so that drivers like Howard and others in our city can afford the low emission vehicles that are coming on stream. I'm obviously we will not proceed with a plan if the technology isn't there, but we are confident how that the technology will be there. And I want to reassure all taxi drivers listening to this that we will support them, and TfL will support them with funding to make sure that they are not out of pocket, and that they're able to afford the upfront costs of the low emission vehicles, and thereafter they're able to make the massive savings that they will on the cost of fuel.
One last email here from here we are. This is from Dan in Erith. Please thank the Mayor for his promotion of our great town. I've lived here some years and it's lovely. But my question is, I read in the paper today that the Metropolitan Police have wasted £30 million investigating journalists for various reasons. If they're ordered to investigate the case of Prince Andrew, can the Mayor tell them not to?
That would be an operational decision for the Metropolitan Police.
Does Prince Andrew need to be investigated?
And that's something that is an operational decision for the Met.
But if it's reported, they would have to go ahead with it, would they?
What the police do is that they look at the evidence, they look at the accusations,
Prince Andrew?
And they make a decision on purely operational grounds. You ask me whether I have. I mean, Prince Andrew. Let's be very clear. Is a guy who does a huge amount of unsung, unheralded work for this country, and people. They go on and on about air miles and so on. Actually, I've seen that guy get out there and sell this country, try and help British firms to get business around the world. He does a huge amount of good and a huge amount of hard work. So if you ask me whether I have sympathy for him, of course I do.
So parking him on the sidelines isn't great for Britain, then, is it?
Well, I'm not convinced, by the way, that he is parked on the sidelines. I think that he does a great deal, as I say, of unsung and unheralded work, and he's a very
we need him back out there, not
familiar and welcome figure in the governments and countries around the world, because he helps to open doors. And we may think it's bizarre, but somebody who is the second son of the Queen is felt in many parts of the world to be an interesting and significant figure, and they want to receive him cordially, and then people who come with him are they want to hear what business suggestions they have, and I think that people should respect that side of his work.
Lastly, are you going to put the prices up to watch the fireworks next New Year's Eve, or this coming New Year's Eve?
Well, I'll make an announcement in due course. I hadn't even thought of it. Why? Do you want me to put the prices up?
No, I'd make it free. In fact, there we are. There's my first campaign pledge. Deputy Mayor for Transport, Isabel Dedring.
Oh, my goodness.
Was asked
here it comes. The ferret has emerged from the hole.
Was asked that very question
in the new year.
On
the snout
LBC.
Has emerged, the whiskers.
Well, we're going to be looking at the whole event, see how it went, make sure that we've learned any lessons that we need to learn from how it went this year, and then we'll look at this year afresh. It's worth saying that the cost of the tickets or any sponsorship doesn't cover the cost of putting on the event.
So you're going to charge people more to look at the sky
Did you hear, listeners, did you see the whiskers of the snout of the beast emerging from the hole and take
New Year's
the temperature?
Eve will be free.
Now you had the candidate emerge. There
Is
he
it
was.
You're going to charge people more money to look at the sky this New Year's Eve?
I've made no such decision, and I will, as Isabel brilliantly
Can you guarantee
said,
it'll stay at £10?
As Isabel brilliantly said, we will look at the
a lot of looking at going on. It's just looking at
rubbish.
What a great job! What should we do today? We'll just look at something. What about a bloody decision?
Well,
Can you guarantee it will stay at £10?
I'm making no such guarantee.
Ask Boris will
I'm
return.
not making no such guarantee.
Next month,
and I'm delighted. I'm delighted that you are also pledging to support
The Churchill Factor by Boris Johnson for an almost definitive account of a great man. From one great man to another. Ask Boris. Thank you here on LBC.
I'm Chris Golds in the LBC Travel Centre in East London. The northbound Blackwall Tunnel's much better than it was before Ask Boris. Before 9 o'clock, it closed completely because of an accident. It's all now open again, but it's slow from the Woolwich Road flyover. In Walthamstow, Lea Bridge Road is queuing because it's partially blocked in both directions after an accident. West